Hello everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us. I hope everybody can see and hear everything loud and clear. Thanks so much for coming to our webinar today. Very excited to get into the topic at hand, which is, of course, church media. Now, I just want to let you guys know, for those of you who are viewing this right now through our webinar page, you should see the video player up above, and then down below, we've got a little chat area for you guys. We'd love to get some discussion in today. Lots of good stuff to talk about. I'm sure there'll be plenty you guys might have questions about or like to share your own take on. So if you look down below, you'll see a little spot that says Sharefaith Academy, and we've got Aaron on the line there, down chatting with everybody. If you need to join in on it at all, you can click on the part where it says "Want to join" and either provide your name and information just to sign on, or you can even use a Twitter account or something like that just so you can join into the discussion and see what everybody's chatting about. And once you do that, I would love to see where everybody is tuning in from. If you can give us an idea of city and state or even other country, if you guys are coming from outside of the U.S. and joining us here. And it's very nice here, very nice warm weather in sunny Southern Oregon where we're located out of. Hope you guys are enjoying the nice weather yourself. I'm going to switch back over so you guys can see me real quick. So again, thanks so much everyone for joining. I'm very excited to talk about church media and really the impact that it can have on the churches that use it. I want to talk about some different things that we'll go over here in a bit. I'll go ahead and turn your attention back over to my screen because I want to show you guys a little bit here. So as we go about our discussion today, here's our agenda for today's presentation. So the first thing I want to talk about is the purpose of media. We're going to discuss some points about what worship media does within the church, how it can be used. We're going to talk a bit about the planning stages and coming together with our media. So before we get to work, taking the time to assess what we need and what our goal is with it. And can ignore some of the icons that I've got here. But anyways, laying the foundation and establishing kind of the theme or starting point that we're going to use to build the design off of. Then, of course, going into the actual, then, of course, talking about the power of print. Print is something that we'll need to cover just as much as the other media because it's something that's still very, very relevant to today in using it. And then also, we'll talk about keeping our designs uniform, the design process, and finally, we'll have some Q&A time. So, before we get through all of that, though, I wanted to kind of introduce you guys to ourselves here at Sharefaith. I know a lot of folks joining in today probably already have a Sharefaith membership, which is fantastic. And for the rest of you, we still love you. Who don't have one, but that's hopefully I just want to let you guys know about who we are, really our mission and vision, and ultimately the information that we're going to talk about. Yes, it's going to be I'm going to be showcasing some Sharefaith media and some different things with that and how you can utilize that, but really I'm hoping that all of the information that's present here can go with you no matter what you decide to use for your resources. So a bit about Sharefaith though. And just real quick, I don't want to take up too much of your time with us, but Sharefaith, we really have the privilege of being one of the most trusted resources out there for worship media. And I have our mission here on the slide that you'll see before you. It says, mission is to partner with churches globally in expanding their outreach and proclaiming the gospel. And everything that we do here is kingdom focused. The stuff that we do, the media that we put out, the resources that we make available to churches, the idea in mind is that we want you guys to have everything that you need to have the most effective platform that you can to spread the gospel and reach people for Jesus. So that's really the heart and soul behind what everyone here does at Sharefaith. From everybody who works on developing different resources to people in our customer service who work with our members and helping them to use these resources to what I do here with webinars. So also, just so you guys know, as I mentioned kind of before, some people may be tuning in from other parts of the world. Being a part of Sharefaith means that you're part of a global family of churches. We have over 70,000 church graphics and growing that are available through our media. Each week we release new content, and we've been privileged to serve over 100,000 churches in 160 different countries over the past 10 years, which is phenomenal, and it just points to the fact that God is still moving all over the world, even though perhaps where you're coming from, it may not even seem like it sometimes, but just again, this points to his glory on that. So with that, the first thing I want to talk about is the purpose of worship media. So when we talk about worship media, a lot of times we can get caught up in the flashiness of it, in the ooh and ah, and having that fancy design. But there's really a lot of things that worship media is helpful for. So first of all, when it comes to worship media, one of the biggest impacts that it has, it's going to assist in the teaching process. And by what I mean by that is that really people are learners who use all our senses to take stuff in, right? I mean, it's one thing if we just hear something, but it's another if you add on to other senses like visuals, having the ability to, tangibly hold something, which we'll get into more with print media. And so there's things where as you introduce more senses into the equation, it just helps somebody to grasp something better. So it helps with retention. So people who just hear a sermon, they are less likely to remember as much as people who also perhaps saw some notes on the screen or saw some verse references on the screen. And those things will help stick with them as they go out, and they'll be better at remembering different information that you passed on. On top of that, it creates an atmosphere. Again, I'm not trying to point out the idea of being flashy or just over the top. Perhaps the scene that you guys see right here with looks like a concert going on and stuff. Again, it's not about that, but again, it's just in engaging people. It's bringing them into an area where the rest of the world is closed off. It's not about their day-to-day life. It's not about what's going on at work for them that week, or what's happening with the game after church or anything. But it's about bringing them into an environment where it's just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Introducing them into an area where God is just being magnified to them. So worship media has a huge impact on that. It also helps you draw attention to details. So as you are preaching on different things, you can bring up items like a topic or a particular quote within your or a verse reference within your message, and it can help kind of enhance that, kind of magnify on that, so people can really zoom in on the key points that you're trying to get across to them. And it helps with worship media, and especially as you use different mediums of it, it's going to help unite the theme of your message. And so we'll kind of look a bit into that more as we go further. So now, aside from the purpose of worship, so I'm assuming many of you probably already have an idea, like, if you're coming to a webinar that's talking about worship media, I don't know if you are in a position where you're like necessarily questioning whether or not you should use it. Hopefully that's not the case, but if you guys are, kind of on the fence about it, this can help you understand a lot of the benefits that come from it. But now I want to talk a bit about planning stages, because when it comes to worship media, it's a bit more than just, when I need that, I'll just go Google it and find it. But there's lots that goes into it when you think about it. So I'm going to exit out of my presentation here for a bit and take you guys to the sunny ocean shore background on my computer. All right, so I'm going to open up here. I have, this is obviously on the Sharefaith website. I've got pulled up a PowerPoint design. So when you're going through and looking for media, obviously there's several things to take into account to help you understand what you're going to need. Obviously, one of the first things you should think about, especially when it comes to if you're using any slides during your sermons, what's being taught? What's the message? Obviously, you can see here on this one, there's a distinct message that this one was basically created for, saying finding your calling. And I say basically because these are all flexible. You don't have to just leave it at that. But this one is about finding your calling, and it uses a really neat design concept. You can see the Venn diagram look that it has to kind of create that idea. It illustrates the point of merging day-to-day life with God's will and making sure that those two meet in the middle somewhere. So that's the idea behind this, but you can go further with it if you wanted to have something else. But maybe you're just looking for something that has maybe a Venn diagram kind of look, or something that it's like the idea of merging two concepts together to present your point. So you can find a design that serves that purpose. And whether you are searching in key terms, obviously doing things like going to Google, or if you are a Sharefaith member, coming on here and searching through the media section on Sharefaith, then that'll help you kind of find designs that are already kind of maybe skewed to work for teaching on a specific topic. Now, aside from that, though, you can also go through and just look at things, as a whole. So if you just want to see, what PowerPoint sermons there are, you can look around and see if a design jumps out at you, or maybe a specific saying or topic that comes through on them jumps out at you. Then you can go through here, and it's cool because in a way this can also serve as a source of inspiration. So maybe you're praying and you're trying to determine what the next thing is that you're going to be teaching on. This is a great way you can look through here and find that. It's also valuable for if you're a worship leader and you're trying to find designs to use. So what's the imagery that you're looking for? Are you looking for something that's a still background, or maybe you would like to use a motion background? If I go here to the new graphics, this just kind of gives me a breakdown of the newest stuff for each category, and you can kind of get a bird's eye view here of all the different resources at your disposal. And so you can see this is a loop I actually plugged into the PowerPoint that I was showing you guys just a bit ago. So you can go through and you can find different items and see this one's a bit more subtle, but you can detect the movement that's happening with it. And it has a very modern look with kind of like a digital grid layout. Or, if you want, maybe you're looking for something that's perhaps more nature themed. Then you can go through here and you can find different ones this is a sunset over the ocean look. So you can determine kind of what's the theme, what's the mood in a way, what's the idea. If you're singing Amazing Grace, depending on how your rendition of the song looks, you probably don't want something that looks like a big techno lights all over the place kind of thing. Yeah, you can go through and you can see really what's going to work best for the way that you're looking to present things. And also, as we're looking at these different categories, we want to know what, as you're planning, what are you going to need? Do I need worship video loops? Do I need a countdown timer video? It's always fun to try stuff out. I can tell you, churches, even though the church is notorious for being a little bit slow to change, it's kind of fun every once in a while to throw something new out there and just see people's reaction. I know when we started doing slides, for example, it was a church, at my local church, we started doing some slides, and a lot of elderly people were there, but they actually really liked when we started introducing slides into the sermon with the verse references and things, because they found it so much easier to follow and keep up with where the pastor was going as we jumped around. And likewise, having something like this just kind of helps to add to the beauty of the service. And as we talk about the purpose of worship media and how it's used, I can't help but think of how God has created such amazing things around us. You look at these nature videos, and even though maybe it's just, seems just like a video of nature, that in alone is worthy of, praise to God for. And just seeing that, how God is the creator, and we are all his creation. When we are looking to do media, we should try to be creative in how we do it. And I think that's just something that comes as part of worship, is introducing more art and more media into the fold to help just expound on what's being taught and what's being introduced to people, or what's being sung about in worship. So going through and kind of determining yes, I would like to make sure that we have a PowerPoint that has the main idea of the sermon with the sermon notes that will go on it. You can look back through here. You can decide, I want to have some still backgrounds, just some background images that can serve as slides to have worship on, or other notes. Or maybe down here, there's these motion loops. So you can introduce some other fun elements like a welcome loop. This one's perfect for the summertime right now going on, and having something that just kind of, a fun greeting loop that plays as people come in, or other uses too. We've got ones, on Sharefaith, for example, that have things for upcoming announcements, goodbyes. This one here says summer events, what's coming up. And the fun thing is you can even take these, and we'll look at it a bit more here, but you can download versions that don't have any text on them and use them as worship loops, or you could even put your own fun wording or phrases on them. So as you're going through the planning, just what's being taught, what's the imagery or feel or look that you're going for that's going to work with your message and your worship, and what do you want to include? Things like countdown timers, welcome message, announcements. Having the stuff picked out for your worship set. Having maybe you want a mini movie to introduce a sermon topic. Maybe you want to have separate slides for sermon notes, and then having like a goodbye slide video. That stuff is all like a good idea to kind of keep in mind. Doesn't mean you have to have every single thing every time, but you can even pick out some stuff that you want to use regularly, like if you just have a countdown timer that you really like that you want to use at each service for a while, or if you're going to have a series on the teaching that you're doing, then you can take a PowerPoint and be able to break that down and have it be the same design over that course of time if you want. So there's different things that you can look at. And so perhaps as we're getting started and moving on to the next part, which is also in a way part of planning, establishing a visual theme. So this is something that I feel some churches that I've seen do this very well, and others have a hard time with this. And not judging anybody who's in either boat, we just want to talk about having that ability to pick a theme and be able to run with it. And so again, like we could look at something like this. We were looking at this one earlier with finding your calling, and we go, oh, this looks great. We've got this Venn diagram look and everything, but having kind of an initial design that you're going to run with. And then from there, you can determine like, hey, if this is already on topic with what I want to discuss, fantastic. You can just download a PowerPoint file and be able to run with it. Otherwise, if you would like to do some more customization, you can even get a zip pack that just has all the blank slides. Or if you have Photoshop, now this is my little public service announcement. This is just my opinion, but I just want to share it, and this is my recommendation to you guys. If you don't have Photoshop, I highly recommend getting Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop, nowadays they have the Adobe Creative Cloud, which you can subscribe to. I mean, it's $10 a month to have Photoshop available to you, and Lightroom too if you use that for photos. But you can go on and get an account for your church for $10 a month and have Photoshop. I can tell you, once you get it and you start using it, you're probably going to start really using it more and more and more. And there's so many neat things you can do with it. I'm going to download this Photoshop file so you guys can check it out and see how this comes up. So just takes a minute here to download. But yeah, once you download the Photoshop file, there's so many things you can do. You can really play with the elements that are in there. And there's simple things, just like hiding things too. If you want to hide some text or hide some symbols that are on it, or if you want to change the color on things. I mean, it's really with a few clicks you can do it. And there's a million tutorials out there online about Photoshop because it's so heavily used. So that's my 2 cents. You guys can take it or leave it. But I just want to let you guys know how accessible it is these days. I know a lot of times in the past people complained because it was very expensive to buy the full program, and I really I have to say that for me, I have a personal thing with Photoshop where I have my own personal account, and I use it all the time, even at home, just for taking some pictures of my family and stuff, and I'll go through and just make some cool effects or adjust lighting on them and stuff like that, or when I'm working on just things for fun even. But here we go. So this is downloaded. So I'm going to pull this up and just kind of show you what this looks like when you open a Photoshop file. Now the nice thing is it'll actually tell me, hey, you've got some fonts in here that aren't installed on your computer. So if you want to, if you're not gonna mess with the text at all, then you don't need to worry about this. But if you're going to change the text, you have the opportunity then to see what these are called. And I know with Sharefaith, for example, we kind of use a mix. We try to use free fonts where we can, but sometimes when you just want to get the right design, there's some premium fonts that we get too that we use instead. So you can do some searching online for these and kind of see if it's something where there's a free font available for this, or even a free substitute. So that's a good idea. Like if you guys see like, oh hey, like this one has to be purchased, but you can just type in the word substitute with the name of the font online and be able to see if anybody has something that looks visually kind of close to what you were wanting before, and then you can just go in and install it on your computer and use it. I'm going to go ahead and say don't worry about resolving this for right now. So now we do our best to kind of organize these as friendly as possible. So you'll see some different folders, like here's a folder for the text. So, and I can even just turn off that entire folder and whoop, all my text disappears. Now I've got a clean slate to work on top of. Otherwise I can go down and click the little arrow here to open up, and you'll see, okay, here's all the layers for all the different pieces that I've got. And I can do things like I can like click the eyeballs here, which will just hide layers for me if they're not there. I can get rid of, I can even get rid of the middle piece here if I want to. And you can do different things to just play with it, like there's a noise layer, and so you can really see how these effects affect different parts of the image too, and get a better feel for it. Or maybe if I, like the map in the background may not be relevant to what I'm looking for, so I can even turn that off so it's just a plain background that's behind it. So there's cool things in that, and you can really find out too how our designers kind of put things together, and it's a great way. I like to tinker with it sometimes just to learn something new every once in a while. But you guys can go through with these Photoshop files and change things out however you see fit. So you can completely customize this for your sermons and make it what you want to be. You can change, like I said, text, color, take things out, or even put new things in, be able to do all that here. So, and it's really not that difficult to make some basic changes. If you want to get fancy, you can go online, find some cool tutorials, and go further. So that's the PowerPoint files. The Photoshop file comes for the title slide for each of those guys. And then, as I said too, maybe if that works for you, you can download the PowerPoint file then. We'll do that. And once the PowerPoint file is downloaded, this one will be a lot faster because it's a smaller file. We'll launch that. And I really like that each of these PowerPoint templates, we'll go ahead and click to enable the editing. Each of these PowerPoint templates comes with a variety of different slides. So you can see here, this one comes with a title slide. It has a welcome slide, announcements. It has a scripture verse that's mentioned in the title slide. And again, this kind of showcases how you can use this. So this is an example. You don't have to keep it this way if you don't want to, but this is just an example of how you can make it look to make it so that people can follow along with what you're teaching on. And then you can see down here there's a goodbye slide. And then after that, we've got all these cool variations of this slide. I like, here's obviously what the title slide looks like without all the text. And then I like this one where it has kind of the cool blue and red on the top and bottom, and then more of a kind of see-through. So you have like different options available, which I really like. And it's very easy in PowerPoint where you can actually duplicate slides with just right-clicking and click duplicate slide, and then you can get an exact copy of the one that you had. Even if you put text and stuff over it, you can copy it, so it's really easy to keep your formatting. Now, while I'm in PowerPoint, I have to show this off to you guys, because for those of you who have not seen or experienced Sharefaith Presenter, it has so many awesome features at your disposal that connect with Sharefaith. And if you're a Sharefaith member, you get this plugin absolutely free with your membership. So you just have to have PowerPoint 2010 or newer, and with a Windows operating system here. And so we'll pull up Sharefaith Presenter. And for example, now I pulled this PowerPoint in, I just downloaded it and opened right up. If I want to, let's for kicks and giggles, let's go ahead and open a new blank presentation. And let's say I'm going to go hunting. Let's see, hopefully I'm logged in on this one. I should be. I'm going to go hunting for some new design material. And it's just got to connect with Sharefaith here. Voila. So I'm logged into my Sharefaith account. First time you do this, it'll have a spot where you put in your Sharefaith details and log in. And now I can go through and I can search for a keyword if I want to. If I say maybe, something like Jesus, I'm probably going to have a gajillion results. We'll search, and then it pops up with anything that has Jesus as a term available through it. And I can go through and I can download them all right here. And it'll give me the option, do I want the standard definition, which is like a full screen format? So if you have like a projector that has a full screen, which is a more square looking side, or HD for higher resolution, and it'll be widescreen, which most projectors and TV sets and things like that these days are. So I'll download the HD version, and it's going to go through and show you progress while it's doing it here. And meanwhile, apart from just PowerPoints, you can also go through on this drop down and you can select from just about everything you would use in a presentation. So stock photos, worship backgrounds, and then video loops for worship loops or like greetings or special loops that I was showing you earlier. So once it's downloaded, I have a downloads folder right here, and I can choose the different categories. So I'll go to my PowerPoint section, and all of the previous ones that I've downloaded here through Sharefaith Presenter will show up. Oh, full screen here so we can see this better. And so down here we can see my PowerPoint. I'm going to insert this guy, and it's going to work its magic, and we'll see all the slides pop up here in just a sec. There you go. And so all of the slides populate down here, all of them from the original presentation and in high definition format. So just makes it super easy. I didn't have to go online and go to sharefaith.com and search for stuff there. You can if you want to still, but this just saves you some steps in the process. And I can even go to what's new. So let's say I don't really have an idea in mind of what I'm looking for in particular, but I want to check out the new media. So I can just hit search, and it's updated in real time with all the newest stuff that we have available through Sharefaith, and I can download it here. The little stars let me favorite it, so if I want to favorite this one for later, maybe not download it yet, but I just kind of want to keep it in mind, then when I go to my favorites and go to PowerPoints, it's right there for me, so I can always download it at that point. So again, do the same thing for backgrounds and videos, and then, on top of that, Sharefaith Presenter has so many bells and whistles. I love using Sharefaith Presenter. We have different things at our disposal too. Aside from just media, it's like just media, right? I know, there's tons right there. But aside from just media, we also have a built-in Bible library. So I can go through here, and let's say I want to add a slide, or maybe I want to add a verse. Let's look up John 3:16. And we'll search that. And voila, it just pops up a verse for me. I can search by book, I can search by chapter, I can put in the exact verse reference I want, or I can even just kind of use these filters to pick something from down here, and there's some different translations available here that I can choose from. So I'll go ahead and select the verse that I want, and there's different things I can do. I can do custom font settings, which I can monkey with in the Sharefaith Presenter settings, like if I want to have like a special font and color and everything chosen there. For this one, let's go ahead and do shadow dark text, so that should show up real nice. Go ahead and insert it, and then it gives me a text box with a verse right there. I can change this in here if I want to kind of scale it down some and adjust the font settings and all that stuff here. So it makes it just very easy to plug in verses, and there's all kinds of things you can do to change the settings on here. Like I said, you can put in some custom font settings if you like a specific font style that you want to use with it, and you can go through and plug all that right in with a click of a button. And the nice thing is you can even do this in real time. So while your presentation's running, you can come back into this screen. So if your pastor, I'm sure this never happens to you guys, but if your pastor ever just so happens to throw out a verse that he remembered off the top of his head during the sermon, again, I'm sure that never happens. If that ever does happen to you, you could come back into this screen and then be able to find the verse right on the fly, and then be able to insert it and pull it up as the next slide so that people can see it and follow along with what he's saying though. So that's a really neat feature I like about it. So, and not only do we have media, not only do we have built-in Bible verses and things like that in here, but there's also the option to where we can actually create our own custom countdown timer. So that is really neat. If you guys want something different from a 5-minute countdown timer or a 3 or whatever you might find online, you can put in whatever you want here. You can customize the color, fonts. You can even do word art if you want to change all that stuff. And you've got all these settings where you can specify if you want it to show a message at the end of the countdown timer, if you want it to just automatically transition to go to the next slide when it's done. So you can do all these cool things and be able to throw it in, and it'll actually create it right there on a slide. I'll just do one for just for an example. So you can see it goes through and it actually builds out the whole timer and creates all these animations within PowerPoint and everything. And so as it builds out, then you can go through and run it so that people can see it. I'll go ahead and cancel that for now. I'm sure you guys understand that. And we even have specific tutorials for each parts of these things. So if you guys ever forget, like, where did he go to find that, you'll be able to check that out on our support site, and we'll have more information. And then last, but certainly not least, here in the Sharefaith Presenter toolkit, we also have the ability to insert lyrics. So I'll go to another slide for this one. So we can pull up anything. So if you have a membership with Song Select by CCLI, this is extremely awesome. If you have membership with them, then you can go through and search their online database for the lyrics for songs, and it just integrates right in. So you would log into your Song Select account on here for the first time, and I'll go ahead and type in, Amazing Grace. It's a personal favorite already. And see what we come up with. Okay, so we've got all the different versions of Amazing Grace here. I'm just going to go with a good old-fashioned one here. And then from here, if it's available, you can even get the chord sheet, which is really cool if your membership allows that. Or your musicians can print that stuff out from here. I'll give you the PDF. I'm going to go ahead and click Get Lyrics. And so we can see it kind of gives us a breakdown. Hey, here's all the song, or here's all the verses from here. And we can either do a quick insert, which will just kind of do like a verse, chorus kind of setup for us. Or a song builder is really neat, because we can actually, if for any reason, like I know especially on some hymns or some other songs, churches might not necessarily do the whole thing with all the verses, or they might have specific things like they put in or take out, or a different order that they do the song in. So you can actually structure this however you want. So I'll just pull in like title verse and just drag and drop these in. And let's say with here we'll do, we're going to do verse 4, but maybe we leave out verse 5. That's just, we're not used to singing it that way. And then I'll put in the last verse. So once that's done, I can click Insert in PowerPoint. And if there's any in here I'm just like, oh hey, on second thought I don't really do this one, then I can just drag it up to the trash can and it removes it from me. And you can even reposition it. So if I want to move this down here, then it switches them around. So now I'm monkeying the whole thing. Alright, so I'll put all these back in order that they belong in for my tastes. Oops, move this up here. There we go. And then we'll insert it. And so it's really cool if you see this, what's happening, and again I can change the text. I probably wouldn't do the light text on this one. But you can see what's happening. It's actually taking the slide that I had selected, it duplicates it over and over, and it puts the next verse on each one. So for still backgrounds, that's what it will do. If you have a video background inserted, then it will automatically group them together and animate them, so that way you'll be able to have the video playing seamlessly in the background without any interruption, and the lyrics will just transition over those. So again, I mean, just this is a tool that I would definitely recommend taking more use of if you haven't tried out Sharefaith Presenter. There's so much to do here. But I digress. I know I spent some time kind of showcasing this stuff, but we are here talking about church media, and I have some other points that I want to cover with you guys. So apart from with digital media, with presentation stuff, I've kind of showed you some of that. There's also the significance of print media. I'll minimize all these guys. So when it comes to print media, we can go down here and see some examples. So like for this one, for example, this one is a bulletin cover design that's available. We can go through and of course I'm sure most churches I've been in make use of print bulletins. And why is that? You think about today's age, we do so much digitally. There's so much with social media, with websites, with you've got the screen with projection media playing onto the PowerPoints and the videos like we were just looking at. But print media has another element that it adds to it. We talked about engaging the different senses, and print is the way that you can engage in a sense of touch. They have something that they can physically, tangibly hold in their hands when they come in through your door. Church greeters will typically have a bunch of bulletins in their hand, or flyers or something like that. So when somebody walks through the door, they can hand them to it. They can shake their hands and greet them and welcome them, but they can put something in the person's hand. And what's really cool is there's different ways that you can utilize that. That could be something like a bulletin that has maybe like this one does, where it will mimic what you are talking about for your sermon. So again, it just kind of lets them know as soon as they come in, oh, this is what they're talking about today. There's other things that can go in there too as far as print media is concerned. You could put in bulletin inserts that can have information like a new visitor card. So if you want to have an opportunity where people can enter in their information or have something that they can write on, so if they want to stay in touch with the church and maybe hear more of what's going on, then you can do stuff like that to gather information like their names, their phone number, email addresses, things like that. So that information is very helpful for you in staying connected with them later on. And you can also use it as a way to let them know of other things. Like you can tell them on bulletins and things like that, you can actually have the URL address of your Facebook page listed or your other social media channels. You can have things like your website listed on there. If you have a mobile app, then you can include a way that they can download that, maybe with a QR code, which QR codes, we'll look at that here in a bit too, because I think that's something that you can really make more use of in prints, in church print. So using bulletin inserts, connecting with your digital outreach so people can still stay connected to email, websites, things like that, social media. And there's different options here. We can do different types of prints. So we have like the bulletin that's available to us, and like for Sharefaith, we offer it in all these different formats. So you can get just the picture of it if you're going to put it over another document somehow, or if you want the Word file, you can download it from Microsoft Word or Microsoft Publisher in here. Maybe you like the design, but you're not going to have this wording. So you can go and download the no text version, so you just have a blank design that you can then put your own content over. Or there's the option where we can do a flyer. So this is a little bit different format. It's made to cover 8.5 by 11 sheet. So you can print out flyers. And flyers are great because, again, maybe you're going to use them for people coming in, but they can also be posted around town, obviously. Think back to the old days when you saw flyers posted around for stuff. That stuff is still, that's still an impact. I think because it's less common, it's almost more noticeable. If you see what I mean. Like there's just like the idea of like if you see a flyer posted, I can't help it. I have to read what's on the flyer if I go by it. Could be for a yard sale, could be for a missing dog, whatever. But it's just like, oh hey, like they've got an upcoming sermon series on this, or hey, like they're running a special fundraiser or outreach event at the park on this day. Whatever the flyer is going to be used for, like that's just a way that you can spread awareness to your community, and it doesn't take that much effort. You just print them out and take them around the area of your church or the area that you're going to be hosting an event or something like that. So I think flyers are still a tool that probably nowadays is more underused than ever. So having flyers available. And then also, you could look at, so with bulletins, we have different formats. I was going to show you this. So I showed you a bifold, meaning that you just like, if this is like an 8.5 by 11 that you fold in half. Or there's the option for trifold bulletins, which you can use bigger sheets of paper with, or they work fine on 8.5 by 11s. You might have to trim them up a little bit. But here you can download a trifold version. So this looks, it just depends on your church's preference and maybe what printer you're kind of using and stuff. But you can make trifold bulletins that have a more condensed way of showing information. And sometimes these work to give you the opportunity to provide a little bit more information. It's kind of like a brochure format, if you will. So there's different options available there that you can get as well. And these ones are neat because unlike the other bulletins, we do actually offer a Photoshop file for them. So you can be a little bit more creative in Photoshop with them if you want to do that as well. And then when it comes to print, last but not least, as far as what Sharefaith offers, we also have the newsletter templates. Again, this might seem a bit outdated for some people, and although I'll have to say, like, my church still uses them, we have these available to our members when they come in, so they can actually grab a copy of the church newsletter to kind of learn more about what's going on. Maybe the pastor can write a little article that goes in them. And it's just another way of connecting and having a tangible resource that people can connect to. Especially for the folks out there who may not have email or access to the internet. There's still some folks out there like that, and you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're being accessible to as many people as you can. But the other neat thing is you could take something like this and save yourself some print. And in the old days, you'd have mailers where I know people still do that somewhat today, but they're very expensive to upkeep, and spreading and using mailers and kind of sending them out to different people in your community, and you never know who gets what. But you can actually save a copy of this as a PDF that you can attach to an email. So if you have an email newsletter that goes out, which I definitely recommend as well, that's becoming more and more common, how people are staying in touch and knowing what's happening at their church. But if you have an email newsletter, then you can connect by attaching this on there, so you can have kind of more of the detailed information in a format that they can either read on their device or they can print it out. So you have different levels of accessibility there. And so again, I want to bring this stuff up because I feel like print resources tend to get overlooked a lot nowadays, and maybe people just kind of do, well, we'll do one thing for it. And you can kind of see, different churches have different budgets. Printing can be expensive, so I don't want to tell you what to do or that what you're doing is wrong. But I just want to make sure you're aware of like the different forms of mediums that you can utilize and how you can really make the most out of these resources. And I mentioned email newsletters. There's so many services out there that you can do email newsletters through. One of the ones I recommend to a lot of folks is called MailChimp. There's also services like Constant Contact and even more if you get further into it that you can find that are just really easy to use. It's very nice to make a beautiful email from and be able to keep a list of people that you can gather, whether that's from people who subscribe through your website or your visitors who fill out new visitor information on your cards, or some way that you gather that information. Then you can stay in contact with them and keep a regular newsletter going that you can inform people of what's happening at your church and they know what's going on. So as I've been showcasing this stuff to you guys, and the last thing I want to show you, sorry, before I go, I almost forgot. One of the points I talked about was keeping it uniform, and I want to make sure that you guys know about this. So when I say keeping it uniform, really what I'm talking about, if I go to any of these items here, I can click to see a full set. You can see like Sharefaith, we actually take a design and make several different resources with it. So you've got a PowerPoint with a matching bulletin, a matching flyer design, some worship backgrounds, and then also some others might have, like what we've seen here with the, go back here to the popsicle. So if I go down here, if I go to this full set, there's even more available where we have video loops that match. There's a matching trifold, a matching newsletter, and even a matching website banner that you can use to kind of keep that theme and keep that design going. Now this is a principle. Keeping a uniform is a principle that's really just a design principle. It doesn't just apply to your presentation, doesn't just apply to your website or your print resources. Really it affects everything. And the nice thing about this is if you have a theme, we talked about laying a foundation, kind of picking a theme. If you have a theme that you run with, it just provides a visual continuity that you can really, understand. Like, hey, when somebody sees a flyer in town or they get a bulletin, they go inside. There's a video loop and a presentation that has the same design running. It just gives that idea of like, wow, this is very intentional, it's very planned out, it's professional, and really, everything is already here at your disposal if you're a Sharefaith member, where you can grab all this stuff and be able to use it as you see fit. And kind of keep that same thing. You can put it on your website where they could go to your website and see the banner that has the design. So there's different things that you can do to just make sure that it all fits together, it all connects, and it all fits that purpose. So you can break the rules, of course, sometimes, and you can see what's going to work for you. I'm not telling you that you always have to do it that way, but I will tell you, like, a lot of times when I go sit in on a service and I see just kind of like different designs here and there, and maybe they don't necessarily have a rhyme or reason to them, I mean, it kind of loses the effectiveness of it. Not to say that they don't still have some effect, but it's just, I don't really get as much of a feeling of like, hey, this is all part of the service, this is all part of what's being addressed or brought before me now in this message. So those are things to keep in mind, and hopefully just some helpful tips for you guys to do it. So at this time, I'm sure there's lots of things I haven't, I'm maybe not touching on right now, but we are getting a little short on time. But at this time, I want to turn it over. So it looks like Aaron's been maybe chatting with a few people over there, and perhaps you guys have some points of discussion or some questions. We'll see if there's anything here that I can answer for you guys. No? Okay. Okay, well, great. Well, I hopefully this information, I really hope that this information helps you guys out. And when you're working on stuff with your media and with your presentation, with your print resources, everything like that, that you can kind of find ways to help bring it all together and just feel more comfortable and inspired when it comes to putting stuff together. Again, we serve a God who is, the creator. And I feel like, having quality resources, at your disposal and knowing about them and making sure that you're making the most out of them, that's just all part of, working together as the body of Christ. So, again, for those of you who are Sharefaith members, I'm hopefully, maybe there's some stuff here that you may not even seen before that you weren't aware of that you had, or maybe you kind of see more now how you can take more advantage of it, make more use of it. And then for those of you who aren't Sharefaith members, I definitely encourage you guys to do some searching around. All of this, you can view everything through the Sharefaith website and kind of learn more about what we do and what we have. And I definitely encourage you guys to check it out. If you have any further questions for us at all about anything with media or any of our other resources like websites or mobile apps or Sharefaith Presenter or anything like that, definitely reach out to us. You can go to support.sharefaith.com, and from there you can find lots of FAQs on stuff or be able to connect with one of our product ambassadors or member coaches to learn more about how you can use Sharefaith resources in your church. So thanks again so much. I really appreciate you guys taking the time with me today, and I hope that you guys found this information very resourceful. And let me pray for you before we head out. Father God, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for the time that everyone set aside for this, and I just pray that this information was fruitful for them, that they feel encouraged by what they can do, that they can see different ways that can maybe give them some insight and give them some vision into how they can use media and really use artwork and different things to help them reach their congregation and reach their communities, Lord, and spread the gospel further. Again, that's what it's all about, Lord. We just seek to glorify you, and we thank you, and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, amen. Thank you guys again so much. We'll stay on for a little bit longer to chat with you guys if you do have any questions that pop up. And I really appreciate it again, and hope you guys have an awesome week. God bless.